It's UPBOptionMillionaires.com on this Monday, August 24, 2015. S&P 500 futures down almost 4%. Unbelievable. If you look last Monday, we had a spike to the downside, but reversed course. We actually closed in positive territory. The prior Monday, we had a huge day to the upside, but this whole market had been consolidating in an 8+ month range, ready to give birth to a new record high, or what we're getting now, a collapse to prices we haven't seen in quite a long time. And you look at S&P 500 futures down almost 4%. That's unbelievable. So we started off Monday with a nice reversal, but Tuesday, little bit of a candle. Wednesday, we pulled back. And then Thursday, my goodness, Friday. And here we are Monday with a huge move to the downside. Stock futures are getting pummeled. But you can look, I talked about this in the last couple of weeks, crude oil breaking through long-term trendline support. And if you look, down 4% this morning, look at that move. If you look at the financial crisis, I talked about this in one of my videos last week. Financial crisis started after we had the big collapse in crude oil. And so we had to start last year in June of the collapse in crude oil. Continuation this year, you can look long-term trendline support clearly broken. This looks terribly ominous. I don't know what this spells here for the stock market, but right now prices are pulling back. U.S. dollar index is actually down over 1% this morning. Look at that, 1.1%. We're still in the consolidation mode after we broke out to the triple-digit level earlier this year, something I talked about as happening, but also weighing on corporate earnings this earnings season especially. A lot of U.S. dollar headwinds talked about. So let's look at some individual names here in the marketplace to trade for a bounce, continued downside. Look at IBB. I talked about this last week, this exact time last week. Talked about the head and shoulders pattern. Hello, head and shoulders. Put your losses on my shoulder. I don't know. But you can look, coming down to support here, 335 this morning. I'm looking, we're at 320. Oh my goodness. So if you pull a trend line across here, that kind of makes sense for downside. See a lot of people talking about IBB as a bubble type environment here that would lead to lower prices down to the 250 level. That's something to keep an eye on. Obviously, the start of a sell-off is upon us. If you look at the S&P 500 as an ETF, the S&P 500 ETF, the spiders, look at that candle. We broke through, we were clinging to this line all through 2015 for the most part, except for the quick start we had to the downside to start the year. Consolidation, look at that candle. So you would say to yourself, all right, we're at support. Bring a trend line across. No, we're not. We're down here. We are down here this morning. Are we going to see continued downside? If you look, I looked this up this weekend. It just, it's something to keep in mind. Look where the financial crisis started in 2008. Here at 130 on the SPY. We're up here at 210. And look at the decline. We went from 130 down to, 666 on the S&P 500. But ultimately, was a move that, wow, if we got a similar move, we'd end up about here, 160, 150, right? But if we get a price percentage move, we're going to end up down here, about 100. And then if we get a similar to these lows move, we have so much more room to go to the downside. So I talked about in my update on Friday, you can be a little late to the party because the trend, when it changes, you'll know it, and you just get on the trend. Because look at how good the trend has been to the bulls. Now you've got those bears who've been short this market since 2009, proclaiming victory after a big candle to the downside, but still missed out on tremendous gains off the lows March 2009. Let's look at XLE, because talking about trend changes, this is a trend that has changed a long time ago. A lot of people were calling for a bottom. Here's the bottom here. Let me get 40 clicks on my Twitter account. But if you can look, we broke down. The trend has clearly changed here back. It's the middle started 2014. And look, continuing to the downside, got some XLE 6850 puts. They worked out pretty good last week. $5 intrinsic value at the close. This is a 10 bagger. Also, the IBB. And if you want to look at something else that's breaking down, we have some of the support levels. Let's go with the QQQ. I was saying the 110 level as support. Look at that candle on the downside. We're under 100. We're actually at, let me just look right now, QQQ is at 97 and change. So you just got to look at support there. Also IWM, 120 level. I talked about this as a sticking point in 2015. We broke below it. We are now at, let's look at IWM real quick here, pre-market. 111. Oh my goodness. So we are under this support line here for IWM and also SPY 208. You can see the candle we've had to the downside. A couple other stocks I was talking about last week. Apple. You know, I've been very bullish on this name since the lows of March 2013, March and April and May. Had a nice move to the upside. We're pulling back here, and obviously this candle could be the end of this bull market run for Apple. If you want to keep something in the short-term perspective here, the market has been pulling back. We have this left shoulder, this head, this right shoulder. I brought this up last week in my update, and that is leading to downside. We're under the $100 level. Support here is at about 95 for Apple. So something to keep an eye on. Also, Google closing the earnings gap. Google right now is down to the 612 level, right about here. We're just about to the earnings gap, so we're going to just close that gap and continue to the upside. We're going to pull this support here maybe at 590. Something to keep an eye on. And also Twitter, post-IPO lows here. Anyone who bought the IPO is now down. Look at Twitter. 24.20 this morning, down $1.60 before the market's even open for trade. And then we have crude oil down, USO down to a new low. The bond market's rallying. Look at TLT here. TLT is up right here at the 127 level. We're starting to break above it. Terribly bullish here for TLT. All right, now I'm going to do another video in a little bit to go over some individual trades, but it's going to be a tremendously interesting option market here at the open. See where some of these options trade, and also look at S&P 500 futures. Pulling back, we're going to get a bounce here. We're going to wait for this support level right here at about 1890, or we're going to just plunge below it. UPB here, optionmillionaires.com. See you in the chat room. Goodbye.